Hello, everybody. My name is Jose Ome Masato. I am Mexican and I am wearing a burgundy sweater and I have long hair arranged in a ponytail on top of my head. Before we start, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. I will be speaking in one of my ancestral languages. This language is Nahuatl. Axcan nican Ohlone, Tixoquequetzaticatej, Ijuan, Nemitok, Ipan, Huehue, Tlali, Itech, Huichin, Altepetl, Chochenio, Ohlone, Tiquixmatij, Impolilistli, Itech, Altepec, Iwan, Titonahuac, Ilucha, Ipampa, Itlactoli, Dignidad, Tlali, Iwan, Libertad, Icon, Ometeotl. Here, now, in Oakland, we found ourselves standing on an occupied land of the Uchin people, Chechenio Ohlone. We don't forget the devastation of the land and members of the Ohlone people, and we join their struggle for their history, dignity, land, and freedom. So be it. Ometeotl. On behalf of NACA Dance Theater and Ohlone College Diversity Inclusion, we would like to welcome you. This is a collaboration with NACA Dance Theater and this festival, the 5th Annual Social Justice, Inclusion, and Equity Symposium. But before we start, I would like to invite the people that are following us in social media, Facebook, that if you want to, if you have any questions or comments, please text us there. We will record them and bring it to our panelists. And also, if you have time right now, can you share our live streaming link so that many people can join us in this amazing conversation? I think those are the logistics. Now it is a great pleasure to welcome Professor Teresa Massimo. She teaches communications at Ohlone College, and also she's the director of the symposium. There is so much to say about her trajectory, but I will pass it on to her so that she can share with us more about herself, as well as introducing our exceptional guest, Brontë Velez. Welcome, Teresa Maximo.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 5th Annual Social Justice and Equity Symposium. Like Jose mentioned, my name is Dr. Teresa Massimo. I'm a professor in the Communication Studies Department at Ohlone College. I have brown skin, light brown skin, black hair, identify as biracial, and I have like a maroon top. My background includes a photo of Ohlone College with a banner that says Black Lives Matter. I appreciate all of you for your attendance today. And the purpose of the symposium is to illuminate social and institutional injustices that impact communities at the margin. And ultimately, the mission is for us to all engage critically, to raise awareness, and motivate us to create social change. So, in line with this year's theme, which is Radical Resistance, Radical Imagination, which explores social justice issues through the lens of contemporary art, ritual performances, and community empowerment, I am so excited to introduce you to Brontë, who identifies as a Black Latinx multimedia artist and performer. Brontë's work tends to deconstruct the acts of violence forged through environmental racism, through creative imagination. And I'm not usually lost for words, but I'm mesmerized by Bronte's presence and her passion. So therefore, I humbly introduce you to Brontë Velez.
Thank you. You said it right, Teresa. Velez.
Awesome.
Thank you for that introduction. And my name is Brontë Velez. I go by they, them pronouns. I am so humbled to be here. I am calling in from unceded Coast Miwok territory, also known as Petaluma, California. And I'm grateful for the many rivers that brought all of us here today, just to take a moment to think about the unique synchronicities or ways or trails that brought us all here for the miracle of this moment. And thank you so much to Naka Dance Theater and Ohlone College for the invitation today. I am a Black Latinx, femme, gender nonconforming person with a pink and blue bandana on my head, a white jacket on, and I'm following the thread of the other guides today and hosts and one of our interpreters, Kat, with a burgundy shirt on. Also, I see us all matching, so I love that. You'll hear more about my work or learn more about my work today with Led to Life throughout our time with one another. And so I would love to suspend all of that, knowing whether or not you've known the work before, or you're familiar with the practice, or this is your first time learning about the work. Before beginning into the work we've done, I love to offer the rhythm of prayer to open us. This is always where Led to Life finds ourselves beginning. And so I'm humbled to open this talk with you all through interrupting the attention economy, as Jose so modeled for us. What happens when we open through acknowledgement and ritual, prayer, ceremonial pace, accountability to the lineages that have supported us to arrive here? What miracles get to take place when we acknowledge where we've come from? And how does that inform where we're going together? So may miracles take place during our time together here and after. And I will invite you now to just find yourself in a comfortable position, whatever that feels like for you. Perhaps you find yourself connecting to the earth or the ground beneath you, the earth beneath you, in whatever way that feels true. Maybe you feel like reclining since you don't got to be on the screen. Maybe you look out a window if you can. And so we're just going to take a moment to begin to find our breath. And maybe your eyes are closed, or maybe you keep them open with a soft gaze. And I'm going to offer a mantra that Led to Life recites when we open space together. And I just invite you to continue to just check in with how your breath is doing as you arrive here. Thank you, Great Spirit, for the soil, the mountains, the trees, the water, the fire, the air. May we honor these elements as the ingredients of our alchemy. May we be in right relationship to these gifts. May we celebrate your abundance, never take more than we need, and give ourselves back to you as a gift. We honor the ancestors and original people of the land where I am currently praying, unceded Coast Miwok territory, and we ask for your permission in the lands before all else to carry out our work in peace, for peace. May humility step first so as to let grace walk us down the path. May we decompose violence in ourselves before we ask it of the world. May we learn from the mushrooms what it means to carry death into new life. May we remember freedom is a practice, not a destination, one that we must practice every day. May we always be imaginative in the face of violence. May we be willing to reimagine what it means to be secure. May we liberate the sacred trapped inside of all weapons, remembering that the gun has a source. May we too surrender to source. May we be diligent and discerning in our work, unending until our land, communities, and minds are liberated from the talons of greed, hatred, and delusion. And still, may we liberate our sense of urgency, of productivity, of right and wrong, and call in the spirit that knows this will take time, that knows we cannot solve a problem with the same mind that made it, that knows beauty is not an arrival, but the way. Listening to our dreams, we remember another way is always possible. Ashe. And however way you might want to close that, maybe that's bringing your hands to your heart, or you find yourself just bowing your head, whatever gesture or posture just allows you to come with reverence, which is what we seek to invoke here together today. So my work, thank you for putting I see you putting the prayer in the chat. Thank you so much for doing that. My work is guided by a quote from an article written by a brother named Mark Anthony Johnson. He identifies himself as a Black acupuncturist, bridging Black and acupuncturist. And he was formerly working as the health and wellness director for a prison abolition org based out of LA called Dignity and Power Now. Thank you, Vaughn. Hey, I see you in the comments, in the chat. In the article, Mark offers forward this language that really transformed me, where he writes, quote, "Black wellness is the antithesis to state violence," unquote. That quote is often misattributed to me. So if you cited me there, it's not my quote, it's just the one that I live by. When I first read that quote, it felt like a guidepost that would forever inform my body of work and practice as an artist and critical ecologist. I'll also name, I just saw that Debbie, who's running the tech, thank you, Debbie, is put that quote in the chat. If you want to read that article, it's called Wellness and the Black Molecular Future and is published with Huffington Post. So because my work is about practice, it invites me into questions. And some of the questions I'm living into are, how can we allow as much room for God to flow through and between us as possible? What affirms the God of and between us? What's in the way? What ways can Black feminist placemaking rooted in commemorative justice promote the memory of God, which is to say love and freedom between us? And I relate to God as the moments of divine space-time that remind us that we're not separate, the moments that rebelong us to the earth. And I embody this commitment of attending to Black health and imagination, what Free Egunfemi calls commemorative justice, and hospicing systems of oppression through my practice as an artist, through serving as creative director for Led to Life, whose work you're going to learn more about today, and as an educator for Ancestral Arts Skills and Nature Connection School, Weaving Earth, and quotidian Black queer life making, ever committed to humor, ever marked by the grief at the distance made between us and all of life. And I'm here today to share about how this commitment to repairing and holding these questions is embodied through my practice with Led to Life. So at Led to Life, we are a Black and queer collective embodying that prayer of Black wellness as the antithesis to state violence. We're predominantly based in Ohlone, unceded Chichenyo Ohlone territory. And we're exploring the prophetic practice of alchemy as a medium to reimagine justice. So we're asking, how can Black ecofeminist public ritual, grieving, clearing, melting weapons together and transforming them into ritual objects and tools to heal and repair ceremony and land, shift our relationship to matter, memory, place, time, and trauma. And I'm gonna so excitedly bring you with me into some of those memories and storytelling and archive of that body of work, so you have more of a sense of how we go about committing to that prayer. So I think we're gonna dive in together here, and I want to open with lineage, with one of my favorite quotes from Chicana lesbian activist Cherie Moraga, who in the Feminists of Color anthology, This Bridge, Call My Back, co-edited with Gloria Ansaldúa. Cherie writes, quote, "I watch how desperately we need political memory so that we're not always imagining ourselves the ever inventors of our revolution, so that we are humbled by the valiant efforts of our foremothers. And so with humility and a firm foothold in history, we can enter upon an informed and re-envisioned strategy for social political change in decades ahead." Thank you, Cherie, with the quote. And so it's this lineage and it's this political memory of our work at Led to Life that brings us here. It's the political memory and lineage of Black feminist prophetic practice and tradition that guides our work. It is not new. If you look to any of the ways that Black feminist prophetic, what I call Black feminist prophetic attention, this practice, this historical practice of speaking your freedom out loud as though it already is, declaring it and feeding that agreement to one another and saying, yes, we are free, is not something new that we're doing. It would be ahistorical to say we haven't like come up with some innovative practice. It comes from Harriet Tubman's audacity to say, my people are free. My people are free in the here and now, in the 19th century, to be saying that as a disabled Black femme who imagined her freedom and her people's freedom for herself. And so it's about how do we, Black feminist prophetic tradition is about how do we work from that agreement to find other sites of power outside of the state, outside of what has been given to us. How do we find fugitive sites of power, and how do we build trust and relationship and protection there? So I'm interested in how story can take place, literally to take place, to reclaim place, to reshape place, to reshape the public, through offering up stories that imagine Black liberation and freedom as though it already is. And so you're gonna see kind of how we cook that up and how we make spaces that bring us into that feeling. And how do we go back to our work more encouraged, more inspired, more in touch with that place that is not a destination, but like a non-place that is a agreement between our beloveds. So I am gonna ask you, Debbie, if you might share the slides. And we'll just take a moment where I'm gonna share some images with you all of some memories of our work. And I just wanna also encourage you to take bio breaks and make sure that you're, being careful and slow on your body during this time. Okay, and we're also switching interpreters at this moment. Yay. Thank you, Nora. Thank you, Kat. So for each of these images, I'm going to invite us to just pause We're just gonna pause for a moment and bear witness. And I'm gonna tell a story about each of the images that we see and bring you, or witness and bring you there with me and describe them. So this image was taken by a student from Laney College who I actually haven't been able to find the name of, so I will keep looking for that. But this image is of a friend, Daktari, at Led to Life's 2019 alchemy ceremony, where we transformed guns into star molds that were reflecting the stars above Oscar Grant, the evening he was murdered 10 years prior at Fruitvale Station. So those constellations were set out, and there was a furnace that you'll see an archive of, where Black families and Black mothers who have lost their children to police terrorism generously and courageously participated in our prophetic practice to imagine an Oakland free of violence, and to bring those weapons to this furnace to be transformed, and to cast our prayers into the stars. And Daktari in this image, and these santeros are dancing our shovels around the altar. And these are shovels that we've made from guns in the lineage of Mexican artist Pedro Reyes's practice. It's just such a strong image to feel being in front of Oakland City Hall in the middle of the city, and to see these shovels danced, dance to the altar, and the ministry of that. I'm gonna invite you to go to the next photo, Debbie. Let's just take a breath at what that is that we just shared. Because I can feel, I remember that day. That ceremony was closing Anti-Police Terror Project's annual Reclaim the Radical King March. An Anti-Police Terror Project, if you're not familiar with their work in Oakland, they are committed to organizing around demilitarization of the police, holding police terrorism accountable, and also being first responders to families and community members impacted by police brutality, and creating other measures of how we relate to what safety and security means for us, which I'm so grateful for their work. This image is another with a friend, Adorable, healer and ceremonialist, holding up a World War II sniper rifle that was donated to Led to Life to be transformed. We collaborated with our friends at an organization called Raw Tools, who make guns into garden trowels, and they're very committed to the act of what happens when we make a small trowel that brings us into the posture of prayer or kneeling, which I really love. And so they so generously collaborated with us for this ceremony at the Life is Living Festival in Oakland, hosted by You Speaks. And this was also in collaboration with Anti-Police Terror Project. And we can go to the next image. This is my friend Stormy and a collaborator with Led to Life, holding a vessel made by my dear friend and Black potter, Makesha Tolbert, pouring out a libation onto the land, and Adorable is giving a blessing in the background to honor the wake of our Black dead, that they may find rest, that they might find power on the other side. That we may continue to honor and remember them and seek justice for their lives as living folks. And you can also see the stars that we made from guns from that ceremony earlier that year. And you can see the shovels made from weapons there, lining the space as the altar. You can go to the next photo, Debbie. Maybe each time I'm noticing I'm not breathing so much. So maybe each time we might just find like a an exhale. This image is of Oscar Grant's father, Uncle Bobby, holding up a hammer after hammering the gun's barrel at the anvil after it's been heated up in the furnace. And it's just such a powerful image to feel, just to see him in that, what Kevin Quashie, Black scholar named Kevin Quashie, calls the sovereignty of quiet. That's what I think of when I see this image, that it's not about the posture of resisting whiteness, of like, we're doing this in defense of our lives against you, but rather something that is for ourselves, something that is unto ourselves, something that is fugitive, something that could never belong to anything else but Black people. There's something to me about this image that is not about, Blackness being the opposite of whiteness, but something much deeper than that. You can go to the next image, Debbie. Okay, here we go. Exhale. This is an image of one of our shovels up close with someone, I don't know who this is, but they're at one of Sogorea Land Trust site, an Indigenous women-led land trust, and Ohlone territory. And this was a collaboration with our comrades at Permaculture Action Network, who bring people who have traditionally not been in land work into space where they can connect with land. They usually do that through cultural events like concerts, et cetera. And we collaborated with Sogorea and Permaculture Action Network and Planting Justice in Oakland to do an action day and gathering with the shovels. And the shovel reads, "As we decompose violence, may the earth again be free." You can go to the next image. This image is at OH Close Youth Correctional Facility in Stockton, outside of Stockton. These are young Black people and Latinx people who are incarcerated. So just to think about that, like that there are children that are incarcerated and enslaved to the state, that there is no remedies in place that find other ways of accountability and community care and rites of passage for these young brothers. And a friend of mine who works with something called the Inside Garden Program, and also with Planting Justice, who I previously worked for, that does work inside and outside of prisons to support abolition and reentry work. They asked to do a planting at the correctional, it's not called, I don't know about calling it a correctional facility. That sounds like a euphemism. So if anyone puts in the chat a better, more accurate word for prisons, please put it in so I can name the terror that it is. This image is a lot for me, but I pray that what was seeded that day was deeper than what is there, and they're working with one of the Lead to Life shovels, planting rose bushes there. And one of my former colleagues, Anthony, who you see with the blue hat on, he was formerly incarcerated for 25 years across California state prisons. And I'm so grateful he was there with those young brothers that day in prayer and in action. We're almost done going through these images. I hope you're staying with me. Let me know if you're with me still in the chat. This image is so amazing of this 93 at the time year old Black elder who always dreamed of having a peace garden at her church, the West Hunter Street Baptist Church in the West End in Atlanta, Georgia. She's also working with this Lead to Life shovel when we did tree plantings all over the city of Atlanta for the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination, in commemoration of that work and his legacy. Thank y'all for all of your affirmations that you're still with me. And yeah, she got to plant a tree here. Several trees were actually planted here. But I just love this earnest posture of her digging into that ground with this heavy ass shovel. It's really, really beautiful. And this church that she is planting at is a historical Black church in Atlanta that has always been committed to environmental justice. So this is a very significant site. And at each of these tree plantings across Atlanta, we also planted in each of them soil that we collected in honor of a lynching victim named Mac Brown, who was killed in Atlanta in the 30s. In honor of the work that's happening down in Alabama at Equal Justice Initiative, where they have a project called Community Remembrance Project, and also their National Lynching Memorial, where they're honoring the stories and names and victims of racial terror lynching. And so the work here was to connect that the racial terror lynching we're seeing now with police brutality is no different. With police brutality and neo-Nazis and white supremacists, it is no different than what was happening at that time. And seeding that soil so that we might commemorate those victims then and those that are contemporary. We can go to the next image. I love this photo so much. It's one of my favorites. This was at the site of a Black farmer in Atlanta, Philomena Andrade, who had about 2 acre, I guess, farm in her backyard. Cape Verdean farmer in her 50s, had her own little farm in the back. And our comrades at Permaculture Action Network built out a Permaculture Action Day for us in Atlanta to come bring our shovels and plant trees and build a greenhouse and eat together and play music. And my friend Alexa, who you see on the right, who's with the Permaculture Action Network shirt on, she just met this woman, Keisha, across the street, and Keisha was having a hard time, and she didn't even know about the farm across the street. And Alexa invited her over so beautifully, as is her way, and brought this woman into planting the first tree we planted with Lead to Life in ceremony. And it's a pear tree, and she was literally like weeping into this tree. And just such a beautiful image to witness that watering through the tears. Most of our tree plantings are like that. You can go to the next image. This is just to show our altar work, what we hold at the center of our ceremonies. This was at our ceremony in 2019 in Oakland, where we melted the guns into the stars. And as you can see in some of the images, you might see rice. It's black and white, so you can't see, but there's rice at the altar. There's indigo leaves. There's sugar. There's cotton somewhere on here. And so we usually, this practice came through one of our collaborators, Jasmine Calderon Torres at Lead to Life, who serves as a producer, to how do we acknowledge the plant cesters that have been traumatized by the legacies of slavery and monoculture cropping and terrorism against the land? How do we bring them into our alchemy work? How do we commemorate them and their trauma of not being able to be offered in right relationship. There's also tobacco at the altar. You'll see gourds and other offerings. But I feel like this is one of the most sort of essential spaces of how do we what's at the center of our prayers and what's holding and grounding that prayer. You can also see an image of Dr. King, one of his mugshots, which I always think about how we forget about Dr. King as a radical. We forget about Dr. King being assassinated by the state. And the work of the Anti-Police Terror Project and Led to Life is to rehistoricize the radical legacy of Dr. King's practice and those he was in community with. We're almost done. You can go to the next image. I'm going to close with this image, I think, or we can go through quickly. This isn't one of my favorite pictures, which is at that same ceremony of the melting the guns into the stars. The dancers santeros are washing the guns before these family members come to bring them to the crucible. So they are smudging them with smoke. They are spitting alcohol over them. They are beating them with native plants of the land. They are bringing them into the water. They are rebuking the spirits of these weapons, to imagine gun as before gun as mountain, as before gun as cosmos, and how to release this contortion that sacred matter has been shaped into. So this had me, I did not, this image is just, some of you may have been there. I mean, this was truly so deep with the drums going and just this moment. It really, it always, you'll see some images of it when we see the film later on. You can go to the next image. This is the crucible where we burned the guns with our collaborator, James Brenner, who's a metal artist based out of Minneapolis, and a local Oakland metal artist, predominantly from the crucible. And we're right in front of Oakland City Hall, as you can see. You can go to the next image. These are our shovels gathered at Segorte, where they're going to build their ceremonial arbor, which is now up. And there was not an Ohlone ceremonial arbor in the last 250 years in this territory. So it was a significant moment to be gathered in what will become that site. Go to the next image. This is a year later with those stars made from guns. Our comrade Stormy, who works with Led to Life, it's so beautiful. And this image is us a year later gathering in honor of the Moms for Housing movement in Oakland, again with Anti-Police Terror Project in the same site, giving limpias to the guns with plants. After unhoused mothers were violently arrested and kicked out of a home they were occupying that no one was in. We can go to the next image. At this same ceremony, healers from around Oakland were with the leaders of the Moms for Housing movement and gave them a rose limpia, just cleansing them with roses. I wish I had put those images here, but you can go to Led to Life's Instagram to see those. And this is again with Stormy with Makacia's vessel, offering a libation to the altar. And this is the last image. I am a dancer and performance artist, and just want to show, this was a piece that was actually produced by, or this was a festival called Fresh Festival, was produced by Jose here. And this is an image of me dancing with one of the stars to, oh, his name is escaping me. If anyone can put it in the chat, Boris, I can't think of his last name at the moment. His song, Every Nigga's a Star, and kind of exploring, retracing Boris Gardner, retracing the soundscape that I'm about to invite you into, that we're about to listen to or be with, the soundscape of that evening in 2019 where we transformed the guns into the stars. So thank you for seeing all of those images. And we're gonna take a moment to just ground again and exhale. Any comments you might want to put in the chat, I'll just speak them back for a moment before we get transported elsewhere. You can get a sense of this work is very fractal. It's fractalized. It's very hard to speak about. I see you, Sho. Thank you. Sho said, still with you, listening, string figuring stars and their sparkles with you. Thank you all for your affirmations. And so now I'm going to invite you into into a posture that is comfortable, relaxed, reclined. And we're just going to be transported for a moment into that memory of that 2019 ceremony. You'll hear the voices of where we transformed the guns into the stars above Oscar Grant. You'll hear the voices of Kat Brooks, one of the co-founders of Anti-Police Terror Project. You'll hear Jennifer Johns, a local vocalist and activist artist. With music, you'll hear a group called the Thrive Choir singing with her. That is also a local Oakland choir made up of activists and healers, organizers. And you'll hear some other sounds. So we're gonna take you there, and Debbie's going to play the sound for us.
Violence in our town. Ashe. I say to you, there is no economic violence in our town. Ashe. I say to you, everybody is housed. Ashe. I say to you, there are no jails or prisons, or as we call them, American concentration camps. Ashe. I say to you that we invest in prevention, not criminalization. Ashe. I say to you that all of our mothers, our fathers, our people, our children have enough to eat. Ashe. I say to you that our children are being educated in the ways of our ancestors. Ashe. I say to you, we no longer rely on outside militarized forces to keep peace in our community, but we keep it for ourselves. Ashe. I say unto you that the generations and generations of trauma from white supremacy and capitalism and imperialism and militarism have been healed. Ashe. I say to you that the people govern each other with laws of justice, equity, and humanity. Ashe. I say to you that we are living in the times that we have spent our lives fighting for. Ashe. 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 And so it is. I love you, Oakland.
a new beginning. Beyond the dream, I am the dream reborn. Beyond my little bullet, go further. I am now, I am real, I am yours. Like your pain, your breath, your conscience, a collective voice, this power of one. Like you know that you've known forever. You are the one. I am the one, I am the one, I am the one. I am the one, I am the one, I am the one. I am the one, I am the one, I am the one.
Thank you. I think it's playing again, Debbie. Thank you. Ah, every time. Listen to it 1,000 times, and every time it does it for me. It really does it for me. Because what was happening in that audio was coming from the place of prophecy, and it was coming from the place of channeling. It was coming from that critical moment of Kairos where time is suspended and people are agreeing to something different together through ceremony and just allowing spirit, benevolent spirits to speak through them. As you can hear what happened with Kat, who moments before was like, what am I going to say? What am I supposed to say? And to say to Kat Brooks, if you know her, which is unbelievable because she's an orator, to say, speak it as though it is, speak it as though it is. And to hear her go up and do that always is just to hear the clarity in her vision for where we're headed and to say it as though it is. Yeah, it just really does it for me. So thank y'all for hearing that. And now we're gonna see, witness some images, some imagery from that ceremony, a film that we're working on that's not finished. Some of you may have seen rough drafts of it. This is a rough draft. This is not the accurate flow of the film or sound, but I've included images from that evening and also some images that are dancing between scenes in a ceremony we filmed out in Point Reyes, unceded Coast Miwok territory in California. The scenes are dancing between the city and the wild, as though the work is in consort, the earth is in consort with what we're doing in the city. That actually it's the land that's working out through us this prophecy to do the work we're doing of transforming the guns into the otherwise. You'll also see there's not credits on this version, so you'll see the mothers of Kobe Friday and James Rivera, Denise Friday and Dion Smith, mothers who lost their children to police brutality in Stockton, and drove all the way out to Point Reyes, didn't even know us, but through that relationship with APTP came out to dance and be in ceremony with us. You'll also see the mothers of Salim Tyndall, Christopher Lavelle Jones, and Dejon Armstrong, who also joined us at that ceremony in Oakland. And so I invite you just to kick back and bear witness to these. They'll be a little choppy, you know, as it is on Zoom, but stay with us. You'll also hear the sound of a piece called The Well Prophecy that I wrote and I'm reciting at the ceremony with my friend Ramalika Imhotep, who's the co-convener of something called the Church of Black Feminist Thought, Jasmine Calderon Torres and Liz Kennedy, who both work with Led to Life.
no violence in our town. Ashe. I say to you, there is no economic violence in our town. Ashe. I say to you, everybody is housed. Ashe. I say to you, there are no jails or prisons, or as we call them, American concentration camps. Ashe. I say to you that we invest in prevention, not criminalization. Ashe. I say to you that all of our mothers, our fathers, our people, our children have enough to eat. Ashe. I say to you that our children are being educated in the ways of our ancestors. Ashe. I say to you, we no longer rely on outside militarized forces to keep peace in our community, but we keep it for ourselves. Ashe. I say unto you that the generations and generations of trauma from white supremacy and capitalism and imperialism and militarism have been healed. Ashe. I say to you that the people govern each other with laws of justice, equity, and humanity. Ashe. I say to you that we are living in the times that we have spent our lives fighting for. Ashe. 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 And so it is. I love you, Oakland.
I am the change. I am the new beginning. Beyond the dream, I am the dream reborn. Beyond my little bullet, go further. I am now, I am real, I am yours. Like your pain, your breath, your conscience, a collective voice, this power of one. Like you know that you've known forever. You are the one. I am 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 the one.
We in our bodies entrusted to our flesh. We created the initiations to prepare us to hold the earth while they are birthing us anew. We learn to dance inside the contractions, learn to shake and shapeshift. Ancestors taught us to stir, swirl, drop it low and close to the ground, orbit our own flesh, to fall in love with our body and the many shapes they can take. The earth taught us to do this as they got warmer from ignorance and waste. As the weather became more erratic, as disaster was declared, we listened to the earth and followed suit. While they became enraged, inflamed, a fugitive in their own body, we listened as they asked us to heal ourselves, to bring the huracan and terremoto to our center. We started to shake and rage and shift shape as a reflection of the earth taking their body back. We danced ourselves back home to source, till there was no memory of separation. Because this is not our apocalypse. We have already been revealed to ourselves. This is not our apocalypse. We have come to lay white supremacy to rest. This is not our apocalypse. My people are free. This is not our apocalypse. We have come to lay patriarchy and greed to the ground. This is not our apocalypse. We are giving it back over to the soil to do their work. This is not our apocalypse. We are just offering the eulogy. This is not our apocalypse. We are the doulas. We have been to the mountaintop. We saw that, in truth, the earth itself had become the nigger of the world. They were unearthed and howling, ripped open to make weapons to take black folks from this earth. We have been to the mountaintop. The mountaintop said they don't want nothing to do with that. So we're crying out with the stones. We are crying out with the soil and the volcanoes. We came to bring the weapons back to the earth because we found that reparations also meant we had to repair with the earth, our only real home. We wanted our breath back, so we took our breath back with the artifacts of war. We brought the oaks back. We undammed the creeks. We planted medicine everywhere. The chorus of other beings who miss the trees are singing with us. The ecology done returned. The earth wasn't a metaphor. We had to really ask them, what do you need? Trusting that our needs will always be in alignment with their health and wellness. Well, we were scared. We wondered, where is black me after everything is laid to rest? If they lay down their guns, if they lay down their chapels and governments, who do I become when they use my body as the scaffolding for their violence? But then I surrendered, asked, will I become you again, sweet soil? Ocean, will I be like you, full and everywhere? We keep our breath flowing so our joy can come home. We undam our chests. Our joy, like water, like salmon, got perfect memory. It is always on its way. We always on our way. We always been the way. My people are free. My people are free. My people are free. My people are free.
I'm gonna have us. Ooh. So many memories, so many stories that happen in those moments that aren't seen, that aren't visible there. And just may our time here in witnessing these images be in service to the rest of those impacted by the wake of terror and violence, that our work here today might redistribute that grief so we can hold it together, so those families are not the only ones responsible, because they're not responsible. So how do we, with our energy and our life force, receive that redistribution so that we might hold it with them, our community, our relatives, our relations, all of them. And know that the earth is holding that with us too, our prayers, our work. Thank you. Thank you so much for that long ass archive. It's a lot of work, so it's always hard to be brief. So thank you for staying with me. And I am going to pass it back to Jose and Teresa to lead us into a Q&A.
Woo, I'm still breathing. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. I hope that everyone else was able to feel that power of your work. I wanted to open it up to questions. So please, if you have any questions, type them in the chat and we will definitely try to answer them. Do we have any questions from the audience? I think we still need a moment to breathe, huh?
No, I think, well, maybe
It was
I
a
can.
lot.
Yeah.
It was like, I think I would like to start a conversation with Brontë because I think um, it's very there is no words to describe uh, uh, the work that you do because it has many ramifications in whatever you tackle so many things, and I am very interested to hear from you. How is that relationship that you create with the community? Because actually, I have seen this kind of openness to you in that kind of way, in getting uh, being able to participate in these public rituals that you hold. So I would like to see if you can share with us your insights, how that happens, how is the connection, what are the tools, or what are in the environment on the surroundings that happens, that amazing rapport with the community.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for that question, Jose. I always refer to a quote from Adrienne Marie Brown's Emergent Strategy, where she writes, quote, "Move at the speed of trust and to focus on critical connections rather than critical mass," unquote. And I think a lot of times about how growing up, the way that I learned to relate to my art practice, growing up in Atlanta with the gift of Black arts middle school, Black arts high school, Black mega church culture, which was its own kind of thing. But I always saw this kind of I was taught the way you mobilize your art is that you make it uh, can it have a return in relationship to capital? And so I've noticed that refusing that while also holding what I deserve and what my community deserves, which is a newer thing I'm learning, but to actually move at the relationship of trust and to be in the kind of pace of listening, what's actually needed here, what's already going on in our community that we could accentuate, that we could bring this art practice to living commemorative work. We've never done anything where it's something new. We've always brought our practice into existing community cultural events where that relationship is already very deep in the community. We collaborated with the King Center in Atlanta, and so many farmers, Black ecologists, Black chefs, so many bodies of work where people brought in their community to come to those gatherings. Similarly, in Oakland, our collaborations with closing that energy of the march, what one of my elders, Orland Bishop, calls walking into a time, that when folks are marching, they're not going to a place, they're going to a time where they can see they can feel their liberation. And so they're walking themselves, they're moving the gesture of their bodies toward that time. I just feel like I was just like reached out to APTP and was like, what do you think about closing this in ceremony? And we like melt guns and shit, you know? And then listening and designing and co-designing and learning what was needed, and learning it was the 10th anniversary of Oscar Grant's murder, and thinking about the wake of Oscar Grant's life and the surveillance, what's meaning the returning the gaze back onto terror, that his death, really had a ripple toward, of saying, I'm not gonna let you get away with this. Yeah, so I think just being like, what's already going on? We don't need to make anything new, and we're not new, and we don't know what we're doing. So what do we know how to do? And what do we have what's the gifts we have, and how do we contribute to that? Yeah.
Just I wanted to mention that I work at Arts Alliance, and all the work that is represented in your work, it has connected with Anti-Police Terror Project, with Cal Brooks holding.
Yes, we're meeting in that building.
Yeah, we just like, like Jennifer Jones, Cat Brooks. I mean, it's so much an amazing place for these amazing people to gather and really to try to support and help us to deal with this horrible, um, you know, toxic environments that are upon us. So
Mhm,
anyway,
mhm.
so
Mm,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Eastside.
Bronte, I wanted to ask you another question, and then I see a few audience questions.
Okay.
But I just wanted to know how you came into this work.
Um,
What's your story?
yeah. I think, yeah, I always reference this phrase I heard Lila June, a Native artist and rapper and just organizer, say, where they said uh, they introduced themselves thanking the many rivers that had brought them, or saying there were many rivers that brought them into their ancestry and into their life. And so I always think about that many rivers statement. So there's so many things I could say that brought me here to this work, but I'll just go with what is coming now. I think there was there's two strong elements of growing up as a dance teacher and well, growing up as a dancer and then getting to serve as a dance teacher in Homestead, Florida, outside of Miami, in collaboration with a group called Artists Striving to End Poverty. A lot of members, it came out of some folks from the Juilliard School that were trying to think about how does having engagement with art practice, release the impoverishment of not having access to art, that is an impoverishment. And it was with my students whose, a lot of the students' families were in migrant farm worker communities, predominantly Latinx students, also Black students. It was my first time encountering an intersection between of really being in the middle of environmental racism and understanding, looking at what they were eating and looking at what we were eating as teachers in our little spots. And just my attention started to change. My attention was also different that summer because George Zimmerman was on trial not too far from where we were for the murder of Trayvon Martin. And me and my students who were about, or the students I was working with who were around 9 to 12 years old, were doing a piece commemorating Trayvon. And during that time, we were doing like a wake work with him. And one of the young boys was embodying the safe passage of his spirit. And it was these children dancing his spirit to the other side. And these children were so deep in rehearsals. I mean, they were just, I remember one time, one of the students, Damilola, he puts on his hoodie, who was embodying Trayvon and holding that space. And all of the other kids went and just got their hoodies. And they were so quiet and contemplative and reverent. And it still shakes me. And that changed my life. I was 19 when I was there that summer, and I never went back. Like I never went back to anything else. I knew I had to go to work with the land. I knew I had to go to work with, I thought at that time, food justice and environmental justice. So I've just kind of followed that trajectory. I also come from a lineage of ministry, with my family coming from as ministers, pastors in the Christian tradition. And I was so impacted by the gifts of those sorts of spaces of gospel and of prayer, and of congregating people and assembling community. And the ways that I also saw growing up in a mega church in Atlanta, the toxicity and violence and capitalism and distortion of power that I saw in the church space. So it's kind of like those kind of threads have brought me to Lead to Life. And I'm so grateful because my art practice being housed in this ministry, which my family actually calls it a ministry, which I'm so grateful for, to be seen in that way as a minister. bringing my art practice to this ministry has changed what I think is possible and what I can do and how to do that with others and not alone. So that's how I got here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it just takes, a few different events to kind of help you find your way, right? And your
Yes.
mission and like what you want to do. And I love that word you use, ministry, for your work, because it's
Yes.
definitely powerful and it gives us a different perspective. And I feel like you might have already answered Abidan's question, and he posted, can you put into your own words how your spirituality affects your drive to move into the world in such a mighty way? So it's, I don't know, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, one thing before it, God is so good. I mean, why do I feel like I know Abi? That name, Abidan, that sounds really familiar. Okay. Well, for the last question, I just want to make sure that it's really important that I cite one of the major threads to Led to Life is Pedro Reyes's work, Mexican artist Pedro Reyes's practice, because I was a copy editor for his retrospective, the last reader on his retrospective called Adusum. And it was encountering, in a weekend needing to read I don't know, damn near 400 page, maybe longer book, and encountering his work, Balas por Pistolas, and his practice Disarm, where he transformed guns into shovels and then into instruments, and that lineage of Mexican art and social practice and his work, that I was like, after losing my friend, if you watch our film Serotonin, I don't know if someone can put that in the chat, you can find it on our website. My friend Xavier Arnold was killed in Atlanta a couple of years before I encountered Pedro's work, and Xavier was killed by a 14-year-old Black child. And so that, as my friend who was an artist and who was radical and like just kind of in his own, had his own way, what Sadia Hartman might call had a wayward life. The wake of his life, and then just that pause and like not knowing how to honor losing a friend and having a young ancestor, encountering Pedro's work and just dreaming into how can this work come to the US, which it has in his own ways, but come into Black communities was very influential. And to Abidan's question, yeah, I think it's all, how does my spirituality affect? I mean, it's just it's all the spiritual practice. I was sharing before we got here that this work, I feel like it's required me to actually deepen in my belief that spirituality is real, good spirits or bad spirits, and that I need to be clear with what I pray and what I invoke. Because once I've learned that we could turn a gun into a shovel or do these other things and all of the kind of material 3D things that it requires to do that kind of work, it also required and requires of me that I reflect this practice. I've never been in a more, I am always like, I've had to go into a monastic relationship to this spiritual art practice. I've had to be a renunciate of things I thought I would be a part of ways I thought I would be an artist, of ways I thought I would make money or be famous. And I'm still working through a lot of that egoic work of like, sometimes recently, a lot of the ceremonies, I've not been there. I've been actually praying or fasting while they were going on in the city that I organized them. Or I've not physically been there. And so there's something I've noticed with that of like, do people know that there's these little stories that I've had to give up about possession and belonging and all of these things. It's very deep.
Thank you for that. We have a few other questions. There was one from, is it Show? Yeah, is that how you say it, Brontë?
I think so.
Have you listened to mushrooms and their prayers lately? Mushrooms with their fierce softness, have been reminding me of you and your wisdom. Thank you for your guidance.
Yeah, well,
Tell
I
me
could
about that.
definitely, I can definitely say one of the rivers. One of the rivers is the fungi. To this work, clearly, I mean, if ever there is actually a being that was a creator that was moving through us, that was doing something that wasn't us, you know, when I think about this work getting to happen in such a quick amount of time, as a young Black artist, to have this much financial investment in my practice, and to be able to pay artists and healers and like to have abundance is so rare. And I know it's just not, it's mushroom spirits. Like, I just feel like it's that mycelial network of community. It's the mycelial spirit of like, just all of these connections being made for us, and the neural pathways becoming really clear, and following dreams and following signals. And yeah, I definitely, though I don't know if this is asking about like if I've been with the medicine of mushrooms, but the medicine of mushrooms, I don't necessarily need to actively be with them anymore. They are with me. Let's just say they are like, it is like guiding me for sure.
Great.
Thank you for that question.
Great. There are more questions, but I think just I wanted to ask you a question before the questions that are here. But I wanted to I want to ask you, how do you manage your community work with your artistic work? Meaning, you are a dancer. Your vehicle is your body, and so much of the work that it involves working with communities is more organizing, be more with them. And I think it's kind of also a self question, like I am questioning myself that, because also I am a mover, but also I work with communities. But I wanted to know how you manage to navigate through these elements that you are putting together.
Yeah, thank you, Jose. I so excitedly just finished a posthumous text that was written by Ntozake Shange. I think it's called A Poet Writes About Black Dance. But I just got to finish it, and it reminded me that there was a lineage, because I'll be like, oh, I feel like isolated, or I don't feel like there's examples of this kind of work. And I've always felt like I feel all the time where, you know, I'll be around friends who I grew up with in pre-professional training or dancing with them. And later on, and these kind of, you know, commentary of that we wish Brontë were still dancing, or what it would have been if I went down a professional dance route. And it's so amazing. The community of Oakland has really blessed me, I want to say, with getting to find my new relationship to my work as a dancer. I've really felt the spaces I've got to be in at Eastside and with Fresh and other experiences where I'm getting to finally find that, how do I use the sound of these memories, for example, of the ceremony as an archive that informs a ceremonial movement. That my piece at Fresh earlier this year was, it really allowed me to incorporate, as in bring into my body, that memory, and just to feel like, yes, I'm gonna embody this. I'm not gonna perform. I'm gonna drink water during this. I'm going to be impacted. I'm not going to perform. And so I'm just so grateful for that. I'm also learning through Ntozake's work, when I was remembering her language of choreo poems, and the way she has worked with so many she worked with so many Black dancers and Black choreographers between theater and poetry. It's given me a chance to really be a choreographer at the social level. I've gotten to move my dance outside of the theater and think about what one of my mentors and someone who educated me in undergrad, Jasmine Johnson, Black dancer and ethnographer, writer from San Francisco. She talks about how we are choreographed, you know, in terms of critical geography, in terms of systems of oppression, redlining, violence. Our bodies are always getting choreographed by white supremacy. And so what is it like to interrupt that with our own choreographies? And she thinks about that through Black vernacular dance, but also through ways, those kind of quotidian ways Black people choreograph their own ways for themselves. So I'm definitely getting to feel like, yeah, when you just ask that question, I'm like, I've always been like, I'm not choreographing, I always improv now, but I'm like, I do choreograph because this shit takes some choreography.
That's
It
correct.
takes some choreography and it takes a lot of help. So I'm just, shout out to the Led to Life team, Carl Lemley, Liz Kennedy, Jaspin Calderon Torres, Stormy St. Val, and like hundreds of volunteers and community organizers that have like made this work possible.
Thank you, Brontë.
Thank you.
Awesome. I have two more questions from you from the audience.
Okay.
And Rose wants to know, what is your highest vision for Led to Life?
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that question, Rose. Okay.
I know, put you on the spot. That takes some reflection, huh?
I hope Led to Life dissolves. I hope it loses its name and its organizationalness and the nonprofitness. I pray it becomes just an energy and a spirit and the prayer that it is, where it doesn't have a shape and it's not connected to me. And it's not this one group of people doing a thing, or this one city that's doing a thing, but that it releases and takes on its own healthy, beautiful life that's no longer needs this meme of a gun to a shovel to help us know that we can change sites of violence into places that are in right relationship with the land and with one another. That really I'm thinking about my art practice as just a bridge that guides us to other kinds of attention, that weaves these different threads that maybe, you know, different conversations are siloed between different groups, and different work is not seen as the same work, and we're isolating and fragmenting ourselves. And so this is just a prayer that this would actually fall apart and we would be living like this, you know? We wouldn't need to bring any guns to the furnace. That would be my highest vision. But I do have one right now of a church. I do have a thing about a church, which is like, this is still on this realm while we're transitioning, you feel me? I've been thinking a lot about a place and a sanctuary that then again gets to that vision of sanctuary being something where our whole bioregion is our sanctuary, our watershed is our sanctuary, our air is our sanctuary. Yeah, thank you for that question, Rose.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful question, and what a powerful answer. And I think it's fitting for our last question, which Erin wants to know. And I think we can maybe address her question and just kind of give like an overall comment to this. Is, I work for Alameda County 211. How can we help promote your work and your organization? And then maybe you can extend that, like, how can we all right here today, you know, extend your work and, you know, take some of that pain that you mentioned earlier, transfer some of that pain and feel some of that pain for the hurting communities.
Thank you so much. Yes, Alameda County 211. I love that. I actually didn't know about this work, so I'm just looking at it. And what I could see right now is my dear friend, Trisha Hersey, who's a theologian and looks at the lineage of Black rest practices, and holds a practice called the NAP Ministry. That is she is my bishop, she is my friend and my colleague. And Trisha just started a hotline to send, where people can call and like hear her guide them through a nap, and guide them towards a nap, and guide them towards rest as resistance. And so I'm just imagining with this work of calling and the like classic work of hotline care. I've been craving recently, you know, we have things for like suicide hotlines, or we have these other things of like requesting help. And I'm curious right now looking at this around what is that place you can call to move grief, or just to rest, or what are those other references that might be there that are outside of traditional ways we may say we're serving folks. So I love that. I love that this is there, and I'm so grateful for 211 Alameda County. Okay. And you can support our work by going to ledtolife.org. On Instagram, we're at led2life. And through our website, you can contact us. I'm always excited about people bringing visions or collaborations or asking how they can get involved. Right now, it looks a little different since our work is not in person, but yeah, there's so many ways.
Thank you, Brontë. And I know that we have one last exercise, one last thing to do. Would you like to talk about it, about the affirmation and all this stuff? And actually, we would like the people that is in the chat or students to participate. That would be really, really great. And thank you so much for your comments. I think we really appreciate this interactivity that is really happening with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love a chat. I love people. I love the way that Zoom changes how we talk, and changes how we like connect socially. So I love, like, in real time, we wouldn't be able to like chat. So I think it's pretty cool. Well, you may have come thinking it was just going to be us that would speak. You will not be speaking, but you will be coming maybe perhaps into a practice with us as a way to close, because this work is about embodiment, and this work is about participation and going forth. So how do we not, just take what happened today and just kind of put it in our pocket, but like, what are the practices that actually help incorporate all that you've just witnessed into your body? And so in a moment, Debbie's going to play some music, and we're going to continue with this practice of prophecy. So the invitation is to stay with that kind of liminal dream space we've been in. And this will be a prophecy for your own wellness. Maybe that looks like getting your notebook out and your journal. It doesn't need to be writing. It could be you speaking over yourself, or it could be on a voice memo. It could be you writing in your journal or drawing, whatever. But what I'm going to invite you to do is you're going to write or create a prophecy that proclaims a vow and a ritual you began after today, after this moment. And you'll write it as though it's a memory or a reflection. You'll describe the ritual, the elements, what it changed in you, what it nurtured, how you felt, the ways it might have been hard to practice it, the ways though you kept coming back to the practice, you kept finding the devotion. And so this practice is to support us, the question of how rituals affirm our yes, our commitments, our incorporation, our embodiment, and what's this small daily act that reflects your connection to reimagining the world, to reimagining your life. What's that small interruption? That doesn't mean you need to take on anything big. It could be like you're writing 5 years from now and you're like, wow, 5 years ago, I was at this workshop, and after that, I I went and I washed my hands and I covered my eyes and I turned my phone on airplane mode and I just sat in the darkness of my palms. And I found myself doing that every time I was off of the computer, you know? And it started to change slowly and surely. I started to get off the screen more and I started to actually change my attention to the earth. And these are the events that started to happen in my life because of that small little practice. So just what is this ritual? What is this small ritual that you're going to leave here today doing and prophesy as though it already is happening? And when Debbie's going to play the music, we're going to do this for 10 minutes and then we'll have a moment to just share back thoughts in the chat.
Excellent. Let's take that moment, okay? Yeah.
Thank you, Debbie. And so I would love to, if there's any reflections that might want to go into the chat, anything that surprised you about that practice, or anything that you might want to share, we'll just take a moment to populate the chat. Or any reflections from Jose or Teresa while folks do that.
Well, reflecting on this practice, it's kind of hard for me to settle. So I appreciate this moment. But like when I was writing, I didn't have any barriers and I just kind of said it, you know what I mean? And so I feel like I can actually make a commitment to these intentions every day because they're simple, but they're just little things that you can do to be more reflective and maybe even bring more awareness to yourself and things around you.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you already know you're my healer.
I can't, Teresa. Well, you can come to the church whenever it happens.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll be the first to sign up and I'll bring recruits.
I wanted to share that I think just the concept of slowing down as a radical act for us to survive. I think I was really thinking a lot in the future because I think just our lives in this time that is so much firing, so much chaos and turmoil, that we need to find ways in which we find coolness. We find coolness and we find really taking ourselves, slow, like there is no way. I think this epidemic has telling us that we need to do something differently. And I think that's what I'm thinking at the moment and maybe for the future too. So anyway, yeah.
Thank you, Jose. I love that. I see that Rose shared in my reflection, I saw starting each day with reflection and compassion, imagining the earthworms doing their work and being inspired by them. Beautiful prompt. Thank you all. Yeah, gratitude came up for me too, Rose, of just like, what happens when I really, some of my friends shared with me who were gathering in a month kind of weekly spiritual practice together. They shared that they had one of them had come with this statement that was like, if you begin to notice what the first thing what's the first thing you think of when you wake up, and notice that is what you worship. If the first thing you think of when you wake up is your work, that is what you worship, and that is what you give your attention to, and that is what your life force and energy goes to. And that just read me for my whole life. I was like, okay, so how do I change that first moment, that sacred moment of waking towards something else? It's good to remember right now. Well, thank you all so much. You're about to say something, Jose.
No. I think we got another reflection. I don't know if
yes, let's read these. You want to read that next one, Abby, Jose?
No, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Abidan says, whenever I get into my peace and quiet, I can't help but sing. The song just comes because I feel like God really does put a song on my heart. This time I sang Spirit Breakout by Kim Walker. Listen, Kim be having them songs, okay? And I genuinely felt like I was opening up to just receive the spirit of things. I'm so thankful to be alive, even during this time, to be able to slow down and really connect rather than go into everyday routine. That can be suffocating sometimes. My spirit was literally breaking out of that routine. Thank you, Abilan. Do we know each other? Because this feels like we do. Show says, I noticed that my heartbeat are rhythms sung by all the kindness and love I received, all the mothering from plant ancestors braided my steps of learning and unlearning. Thank you, Sho. Sarah Bush says, after Bronte's Led to Life workshop, I started eating my breakfast and lunch sitting on my front stoop. So for the last 5 years or so, I've connected feeding my body with feeling the temperature of the pavement, the angle of the sun, the many sounds of hummingbirds, and the flowers and sugars they share with the bees and butterflies in my yard. It means I nourish all my senses twice daily. Sometimes there are neighborhood church bells ringing, but always it is a call to prayer, to be in prayer. Over time, I gained more intuitive feelings of my interconnection with place, with plants and other animals, with light and seasons. Over time, I started to take more time, not just with eating the meal, but with preparing it, cleaning up afterwards. Then with all the pieces of my day between meals, I've become more spacious. Time is multidimensional. I feel I can flow in it, explore it, listen to it. What am I next called to? Where can my gifts, resources, skills, abilities, dreams, passions meet my needs, the needs of others? By eating my meals on the stoop, the possibilities for energy and connection expanded, and of course, gratitude. Come on, Sarah Bush with the prophecy. Is this Sarah Bush the dancer? This is from Facebook Live, but there is a dancer named Sarah Bush, and I'm like, come on, sis.
I think so.
Naka
Yes,
said yes.
yes, it is.
Yes.
Sarah Bush. Yes, hey, Sarah Bush.
Thank you, Sarah Bush. I love that work at the intersection of environment and dance. Wow. Thank y'all for actually doing that practice. It's so beautiful. Thank you. Feel so inspired, and I pray we can continue to do that. Like when we're feeling like we just need a break in some patterns, that we always know we can prophesy something else for ourselves and for our community, for our lives, that we always have that magic available to us. In a way, I'd like to close for my end, and then I'll pass it back over to the host, is same way we began, we'll just close in prayer. So I'm going to share this mantra that we shared. Thank you to everyone who was present today, and thank you all for inviting me. I'm so grateful to you and all of my relations. And again, you could just find yourself in a soft gaze or exhaling, or you could close your eyes if you like. Leaving this place, may we tend to and nourish our bodies, minds, and spirits, knowing that our own healing is bound up in that of our worlds. May our rest bless us with our most optimal health tomorrow when we arrive to serve again. We practice responsibility for that which enters and leaves our bodies, minds, and spirits. We practice letting go of that which no longer serves us. And we practice inviting in that which sustains joy. If Black wellness is the most radical act against state violence, may we be so well, a reservoir of joy. May we resource ourselves so as to overflow, filling all places where joy has been stolen with laughter, health, and connection. We dedicate this work to our ancestors, our teachers, the wide circle of gentle stewards of the land, and the disciples of love for your guidance, your prayers, and your cosmic companionship in our commitment for justice. And we offer the fruits of our work here today to all those in this place, this land, this Zoom call, this world, who suffer at the hands of violence, both the perpetrators and the victims. May all wake up from the myth of separation, and may all come to intimately know the spirit of love that binds us in relationship with this wild web of creation. May we give love, may we receive love, may we be love, as we lovingly plant the seeds for trees whose shade we may never feel, whose fruit we may never eat. May we do all of this for the sake of freedom. Ashe.
Ashe.
I'm going to invite one more practice. I promise it's the last one. It's just where we can all get our voices collectivized, which is always a powerful thing. And y'all can stay off mute. It's a practice I received from Miyakota Taylor, who runs something called Fierce Allies. And it's just a practice of dedicating the merits of our time beyond just those who were gathered here today, so that anything that happened here may extend elsewhere. So the phrase is just, may any positivity generated be given away to all of life for the sake of freedom. So I'm going to say that again. And if you feel called wherever you are, you can just repeat after me. May any positivity generated be given away to all of life.
Be given away to all of life.
For the sake of freedom.
For the sake of freedom.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll pass it back to you all.
Thank you so much. Also, thank you. And if Miyakota Taylor is watching us, we appreciate also so much the work that she does. Thank you so much. Well, anyway, thank you so much, Brontë. It's always been a pleasure to have your presence in this room. So we truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. But before we end, we would like to really thank our interpreters. Yeah. And they have been working so hard. Nora Joy Rodriguez, thank you so much, Nora. We really appreciate that. And also Kat Ridley. Thank you, Kat. She has been one of our amazing collaborators with other events. So we always appreciate your work. And also, I would like to let you know that we still have more events in this symposium. And the next one is going to be on December the 3rd, I think. Yes. It's going to be the work of Carisha Wigington, Too Much Woman for This World, directed by Dr. Ayodele Singha. So it's going to be quite an amazing conversation, and she will share us a lot of her work, of that piece, of that play. So please be with us. Also, I want to let you know that this is not the end of this conversation. Also, this is going to be archived in our platforms. So if you can continue sharing, it will be really great, because I think we have seen that people watch us after we stream it. So, but also please feel welcome and free to continue sharing this an amazing conversation with Brontë Velez. Thank you so much. Teresa, please.
Well, I told you last time, Brontë, that like every time the limited times I've interacted with you, I just feel like I come out of a meditation retreat. So thank you for sharing that energy with the rest of us. It's healing in many different ways, I think, for a lot of different folks, and to give different perspective. And I appreciate that. And you humble me, all of you, Jose and Debbie, and even the interpreters. Thank you for participating and, allowing me this platform to showcase, things that need to be discussed, right? And I appreciate that presence about you. And of course, I appreciate my college for always hosting these types of events. So thank you very much. And we are done. Whoop, whoop. Thank you, everybody.
So much. Thank you. Thank you, Nakadance Theater. Debbie Kajiyama, she's like the foundation.
Thank you,
technical
Debbie.
Foundation of this programming, and the Ohlone College that always has been supporting us. And Teresa, thank you so much. Okay, everybody, thank you so much, and be well and be healthy, be safe, and we love you. Thank you so much.
Yes, and there is actually a survey in the chat just to get some feedback about the event, if you'd like to take it. Otherwise, we'll hopefully see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.